Hi, welcome to another episode of Foxy Little Nuggets, where we take the ape man of knowledge and throw him up against the loose liana of ignorance and watch him crash to the ground. First up, we're going to talk about Andy Burnham, who wants to take the Manchester bus model nationally. Britain's next Prime Minister, or probably anyway, is reportedly looking at the B network in Manchester as a template for transport reform across the whole country. In Manchester, buses were brought in under a sort of a old London-style franchising system with routes, fares, priorities all set publicly, while private firms do the actual driving. And credit where it's due, bus travel has reportedly gone up. Cost per kilometre have come down, and passengers can use something approaching an integrated system. But the slogan is basically, if it's good enough for Manchester, it's good enough for everyone. And that's a powerful message, really. Although in much of Britain, the current transport slogan seems to be, well, there was a bus here in 1998, you should have got on it. But Burnham wants local control, local accountability, and highly visible change. The danger, of course, is that every council in the country will also now demand Manchester-style powers, London-style money, and then produce a Milton Keynes-style roundabouts with feelings. Still, compared to the national rail system, even a bus that arrives eventually now counts as an innovation, I suppose. But next up, we're going to talk about the teachers. They are quite actively urging the government to press ahead with strict new age limits on social media. The National Education Union wants Burnham to continue plans to ban the under-16s from platforms such as TikTok and Instagram and so forth. Teachers say the effects of social media no longer stay on the screens. They spill into classrooms and they create toxic environments. Surely the school has the ability to stop this. Now, you can take the kids, or you can tell the kids they've got to leave their phones in their lockers kind of thing. But of course the behaviour and what they've learned and what they've seen is still in their little minds. So I don't know. That's not what I'm going to get into as an opinion piece. I think better parenting is definitely the case. But, well, you ever tried taking a phone off a teenager? But the union says a ban should only be the start. It wants better online safety education, more youth clubs, libraries, sports, arts, etc. Give the kids somewhere else to go where they're not being sort of psychologically waterboarded by the algorithms. But tech companies, of course, they're all dead against this because they need to, make money. But they're warning the bans will push children onto less safe platforms, which is what everyone is actually saying. And there seems to be some genuine concern that that's actually true. So it's a case of, So I'm saying, don't close the local kebab shop or children will start licking the windows. It's... Is it better to have controlled environment rather than banning it? Who knows? It's a difficult one. Getting back to Burnham again for a moment, though. He's reportedly looking at stopping the those offenders, like the gangs offenders, being released early. He said that they should, under no circumstance, be granted early paroles. This follows renewed sort of public serious anger over these offenders leaving prisons, while victims are left wondering whether the justice system has abandoned them or not. Or was it just being designed by a bunch of people who've never met a victim? That's possibly true. The early release scheme was brought in because prisons are overcrowded, of course. But the public hears overcrowded prison and thinks build more prisons, not release prisoners. The government think release prisoners because they can't afford to build more prisons. There's now calls, though, to make sure that those offenders are excluded from early release altogether. Although I can't see anyone complaining. Who's going to stand up and say, no, we must release these people? It's not a good look, is it? In fact, don't release these people, these offenders, early. Maybe one of the few policies in modern Britain capable of uniting both the left, the right, the centre, that bloke on Facebook, and even Gary Glitter. The only question is, why did it even need asking and exploring rather than just, doing? Sorry about the noise in the background. My dog has just brought in a plant pot. It's his new favourite toy. Jesus, the amount of money I spend on him. And he's got some old mangy plant pot. Anyway, going to go up to Scotland now for the fourth one. The SNP's supermarket food price cap has apparently landed on Stephen Flynn's desk. Now, John Swinney promised these legal price sellings on a whole range of products, egg, bread, the sort of staples, basically. And he said he'd do it within the first 100 days of the SNP government being re-elected. Well, time ticks on, and there's still no sign of it. But apparently the papers have landed on Flynn's desk and he's been told to get on with it. But he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. He doesn't know how to implement it. He doesn't know how to fund it. He doesn't know whether it should be a voucher scheme or what. So retailers are now asking such difficult questions like, what products? Which shops? How are the prices set? Who sets them? How's it being enforced? How long will it last? And has anyone involved ever been to a supermarket? Supermarkets are pretty cutthroat now. Putting an artificial lowering of a few pence on eggs isn't going to make a difference. I tell you what I did. Oh, God, I'm going to sound terrible now. But duck eggs used to come in 6s and now they come in 4s. I like a duck egg. Don't buy them all the time, but every now and again I have the urge and I spoil myself with a duck egg. But they come in 4s now because apparently nobody can afford 6. I don't know. I think they're about £4 for 4. It's £1 an egg. It's hardly a big indulgence, but anyway. But the SNP though says this plan. It does make me sound terribly posh, doesn't it? Ew, having a duck egg. I'm not. I just like a duck egg. The SNP says this plan will help families with the cost of living. Not much, and if you weren't taxing them so much, they'd actually have the wherewithal to actually buy their own food without having government interference. Retailers say it will not actually address the actual causes of high food prices. True. Production, transport, energy, supply chain, energy, of course. With the cost of electricity, it's why most food has gone up. Still, it's something the government could address and choose not to. Now, the problem with price caps is they sound wonderfully simple. And they are. Then the reality arrives wearing a high-vis jacket and carrying a clipboard and saying, oh, you can't do that there, mate. And if something is being sold at a loss, then the supermarket's got to make that up by selling something else for a bigger profit. Plus, also, if you get all your staples nice and low from Sainsbury's, say, nobody's going to use the corner shop, and then the corner shop closes. And then when all this has ended and prices go back up, the corner shop isn't there, and you find you've got little food deserts. This happens. Still, if Holyrood can set the price of bread, perhaps next week it can regulate that avocados must ripen within a usable 14-minute window. Anyway, we have an and finally. I do like an and finally. If Holyrood what am I talking about? A teenager has been rescued. Woohoo. This is after getting stuck in a baby swing at a park. Kids, huh? Firefighters had to be called after this young lad apparently managed to squeeze himself into the seat for a joke with his mates and then discovered that getting out was not part of the original design brief. Now, we should not laugh, obviously, but we're going to. But there is something very British, I think, about the emergency services having to deploy professional rescue equipment because some 14-year-old lad has looked at a toddler swing and go, hold my beer. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt, except perhaps the teen's dignity in front of his friends. But somewhere, a parent is now saying the most ancient phrase in family life. I told you not to do it. And that's it for our cocky little nuggets today. The country may be confused, underfunded and politically unstable, but at least the buses might run on time and teenagers will continue to teenage. Thank you very much. Bye.